What's going on, guys?
Welcome back, Caleb.
I'm always here.
Yep. So, Caleb, what do you think about open borders? You think we should just open them up?
No,
Okay.
I do not.
What's your position?
It's very difficult to explain because I view it as I don't agree with the government or any government institution, but I also don't think that that means that anyone can just come into this country. I see it as the same as I wouldn't want anyone walking into my house without knowing who this person is and that what their intentions are, and I would want to put something in place to stop that from happening. So I think something like that needs to be in place, whether you're in you have a government or it's an anarchy society.
So, do you think you have the right to stop them from coming across the border?
I would say it depends completely. It's not something that I've thought out a whole lot, but I think that there should be a way to figure out, who's coming here and why. And I also think that if you got rid of the government, a lot of the incentive for people who have bad intentions of coming here would go away. And the people would come here because they would realize they want to make something of themselves, and that's what you want. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I don't know the numbers, but would it be safe to say that a lot of people immigrate here because of our welfare system?
Yes.
I think they actually advertise it in Mexico and everything. I think there are ads talking about our welfare system, and if you come here, this is what we and I don't know who's running them. I don't know if it's our government running them, if it's their government running them, thinking we'll send our poor people up there. I really don't know, but that's what I've heard, that they've got ads running.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then you're right. Like, if there wasn't a government and there weren't those incentives, people wouldn't just be flying over the border at a crazy rate, because you're not going to get anything here except take some personal responsibility and make something of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think the immigrants that would come here would be ones that would see that America's a place where they can flourish. They would come here and be productive members of society, and that's incredible. Now, there is still, something that I don't have any of the answers for, but there would still be people who necessarily you wouldn't want because their intentions would be bad or to, whatever.
Right.
But how do you deal with that? How do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is it right to try to stop them before they walk across an imaginary line?
If you don't know their intentions, no.
Right.
It's not right to stop
So
them.
you'd have to wait until they've committed a crime and then take care of it the way that it needs to be handled, with whatever force necessary to handle that particular crime or that situation.
Yeah, in a sense. And it's like...
So you're for open borders, as long as there's no government.
Kind of, but no. It's like... I mean, I think that a part of the system that the government has set up on our borders of the checkpoints, and if you want to become a U.S. citizen, the process you have to go through, some of that I think is ridiculous. But I don't think that that's necessarily wrong, in the sense of a lot of the things that the government provides very poorly. But if I don't want them to, I want the government gone. I don't want those things to be around, but that doesn't mean I don't want someone else to take the place of what they say they're offering, right? It's not that what they're offering is wrong. It's that they're not doing it the correct way. They're
stealing from other people to
make it happen,
to make those programs possible.
So, and I'm not saying this as what I feel should happen, but with border checkpoints, and instead of just allowing people to walk across and then later finding out because they've committed a crime, if they're good or bad or whatever, vetting people as they come through, a system still in place like that. But that's something that I don't know how to flesh out. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't see anything wrong with that because I see it as the same as if you live in a mansion and you have a nice big fence and there's a little guard house at the front of the fence, and you hired a guard to stand out there and he checks everyone that comes in and out. Is that immoral? Is that wrong?
No,
because
you're protecting your property.
Exactly. And as a country, it would be, unless you wanted to say, well, this doesn't belong to anyone, it's not anyone's property, but I own property in this country, and that could be affected by letting anyone in this country.
Right.
See what I mean? So I feel like you would still have a right to let in who you want and who you don't. But that can't be based off of racial prejudices or anything like that. It needs to be based off of, are you going to benefit this country or are you not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not necessarily even benefit, but are your intentions to harm other people, to encroach on other people, to steal from people, or are you just trying to live your life?
Well, we can't know that
you can't.
About any individual, and
Sure.
even the ones that are already, let's say, citizens or people that live here. Like, you don't know that about them, even if they're going to
Sure.
commit crimes. So.
Yeah, and you can't always know that, but it's one of those things where when you already have to deal with that problem with the citizens of a country, you have to, to just allow anyone from any other country to come in, you're adding to the problem. If you can put up something in place to slow that down, I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Daniel and I were talking about it earlier. It's a weird, hybrid system we have that it makes the problem more complicated, because the imaginary line that they're crossing, that's no one's land. There's so much land here that is, quote, government land, which, in my opinion, the government isn't anything, and it doesn't have a right to hold land.
Sure.
Right? So, while they don't have a right to defend that land because they have no rightful ownership over that land, the other flip of the coin is the immigrant that's coming across is still trespassing on land that he does not own. So that's why I guess I feel kind of on the fence about it, because it's like if I have my own land here, if somebody comes on it, they're clearly trespassing. They don't own the land. I own the land. I have the right to defend the land, because it's my property,
mm-hmm.
right? But the government really shouldn't be a thing, so they shouldn't have a right to defend it. But still, whatever the case, the guy that's coming onto the land, he doesn't have a right to be there. Now, if I have a buddy that lives in Mexico and I want to drive my car down there, grab him, or even if I invite him up here onto my land and he wants to live on my land, I don't think the government or my neighbors should have any say in that. It's my land. This is my friend. He can live here if he wants to.
Sure.
But it's a weird system that we have set up where the government owns so much of the land, but this government that's supposed to represent the people, half the people don't want the illegal immigrants here. The other half of the people do. So what's supposed to happen there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I kind of see that, because I never really thought of it like that a lot of the land in the U.S. isn't owned by anyone but the government, which they, like you said, they don't own it either.
Yeah.
So really, I'm for open borders up to the point of people's personal property that they own.
Yeah.
And so, you know what I mean? I guess I could see that, if they want to come in and buy the land that the government has claimed is theirs, and live there, then do it.
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about it earlier. I know foreign people can buy land in our country, and I can buy land in another country, if I want to buy an investment property or whatever. So if I own land in that country, to say that I can't go onto my own land and live there if I want to is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just because I don't have government approval, when no people group, any nation, they're all going to be divided about what should happen with that, right?
Yeah.
And really, none of them should have any say whether in support or opposition against it if it's not your land. It's not your land, it's not your property. Whoever's on it, that's not affecting you. Like it could if they start to violate your rights, but that's when it's your responsibility to defend those rights.
Yeah. I think another argument for keeping borders closed, though, is that, yes, we're all people, but we all definitely have different backgrounds and different cultures, and our value systems are wildly different across the world. And so, because that's true, is it possible for people that have completely different value systems to live peacefully among each other? Or are you going to always run into someone trying to oppress the other one because they think they're right?
I would say so, with the current status of
Humanity,
yeah. And that is another problem with it is...
And the thing about it is like, I wouldn't have any issue with someone who has a different value system or different background as long as they don't try to force me to live their lifestyle, right? It's not wrong to be different. It's wrong to try to force other people to be the same as you.
Yeah.
So even, I guess, if that one thing could change in humanity, where we don't all have to be the same, but we've got to stop trying to force everyone around us to be like us, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a crap with democracy building. Like, you know, we always want to impose that, and whether, you know, I don't believe that that's why they're doing all these wars on all this, you know, foreign soil or whatever. But that's usually what they'll tell everyone. That's what their thing is. You know, these people are oppressed. We need to bring them democracy. They don't want democracy in most cases.
Right.
Like, that isn't their culture. That isn't how they were brought up. Like, over in the Middle East, if they want Sharia law, that's what they want.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I mean, I don't think that's a moral way to live. And I wouldn't live in a place like that if I could help it. And I'm not saying there are people over there that don't want to live like that. Mm-hmm. But it's also not our place to go over there and impose that on them any more than it is, you know, if my neighbor down the street wants to, you know, I don't know, live a lifestyle where him and his wife have an open marriage and they swing or whatever, that, you know,
that's fine.
We're not going to do that here.
Yeah, he can't try to force that on the rest of the street.
No.
You know, if that...
and I can't force my view of what a marriage should be on him. Like, I mean, that's their thing, and that's
true freedom, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if you could get that into everyone's mind, open borders would work, because that's fine. You can come here, you can be whoever you want to be, do whatever you want to do, as long as you don't harm another human being. But don't try to force your shit on anyone.
I think one problem with that, though, is that some cultures, a part of the culture is to
spread and force. Yeah.
Which is fine.
Most religions, but I mean, like, it is fine. It just depends on how you go about it, whether it's in an encroaching
spreading
way or
whatever
just,
you think is knowledge is fine.
Speaking and discussing things with people.
Well, that's I'm not going to get this quote right. It's not going to be exact, but Ayn Rand said, like, the only true moral way to deal with another man is through logic and reason, which is true. Like, force is not okay, but like that people should be doing. Like, if I hold a certain position that I think to be moral or the right way to do anything, if I care about you, then of course I'm going to be trying to convince you that that's the right way to do it. If I think that that's going to lead to a more fulfilling life for you, or that that's the right way to do things, and that's great. Like, argue that all day long.
Yeah.
But when you go from arguing it to trying to legislate that morality, you know, that's something that legislate just, you know, always leads to a guy with a gun going to put you in jail if you do it. You know, and that's what, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it boils down to. Open borders are okay if people will just leave each other the fuck alone. But they
I think
won't.
That's why most places have closed borders, though.
Because they won't.
Yeah, and then there was another aspect that I brought up to you earlier today about people carry diseases, and just allowing anyone and everyone to come in without checking them. Somebody can bring in a bad disease, and that can spread, and then you got a really bad problem. And I think that's one of the reasons for closed borders is to check for things like that. And so what do you do about that if you just have completely open borders? You just deal with it after the fact?
Well, maybe I'm ignorant about it, but is it... Obviously, there aren't whole portions of the world that are just dying of these diseases, so is it that they, in a certain spot in the world, they develop a certain resistance to certain things, like that if they brought them over here, I guess kind of like the smallpox blankets you hear about with the Native Americans or whatever, like, does that still happen?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, but I do believe that there are diseases in other countries that aren't in America. There are probably diseases that you can get in America that aren't in other countries, or viruses or whatever. And I would assume that people in those countries, whether it does kill people, this and that, but they become more immune than, like, it was, I can't remember. It was two artists that had a podcast, and it was like Ja Rule or something, and someone else. I don't remember. Akon, someone like that. And they were talking about going to Africa, and how they don't, like, when they say if you're going to go to Africa, you need to get all these shots for malaria and for this and for that. And they're like, we never get those shots. We don't need to get those shots because our bodies are immune to that. And they were saying that they're like, I never get those shots. None of my African American brothers ever get those shots. But white people, you better go get them because your bodies are much more susceptible to these things. And so it was actually Nick Cannon and Akon, I think. Now, they're not experts on it either, but they have been to Africa multiple times and apparently have never gotten the shots. So I think there is some kind of regional immunity to certain things where they still carry them and they can still pass them, but other countries have a much higher chance of it affecting them.
But we don't limit travel from these places, right? Like, they're in parts of the country parts of the world that we don't let come into the country. So if they were carrying those...
Yeah, but Australia has very, very strict policies on things like that, especially with animals, because animals can bring things in. And Johnny Depp brought a dog on a plane, and he wasn't supposed to, and they caught him. Yeah. And they made him make a video apologizing and saying how dangerous it was, and now it, like, plays at the airports in Australia. Like, they're very serious about that because they don't want outside diseases coming into the island.
Is that diseases? Because I knew they'd do that with, like...
I'm saying diseases because I'm ignorant. But any kind of...
Well, I knew that they did that with, like animals and fruit and that kind of stuff, but they're more worried about, like, with that, as I understand it, they're more worried about, like, invasive species, like, not so much harming the people. Well, I mean,
but sometimes it's invasive species, but sometimes it's also just the diseases that could be in the plant could also transfer over to different plants in our region.
A poodle or something. You know, I don't think they were worried about it being an invasive species. But that the whole virus disease thing with the coronavirus right now, that's a problem.
You think?
I'm not saying coronavirus is. I think that it is a real thing. I think that it is killing people. I think there's I'm sure a lot of misdirection and lies behind it, but it's something that started in one place and is spread all across the country, or the world just about. They've got cases all up and down the West Coast right now in the U.S., and it's Italy, I think, they had an outbreak where they said no one even traveled here, which, like, how can that be? You know what I mean? So, I don't know, but that's a thing that happens, and it's a part of the whole border discussion. It has to be. Because that's something that if something does spread that is killing people. It was no one's did it intentionally, but it's a horrible thing that you want to try to prevent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think the other thing too that would help would kind of fix this problem where you really wouldn't have this issue is that if governments across the world were gone and freedom truly existed,
A lot of the
people
diseases and viruses would be not as bad
no, that's not what I meant.
because they're infecting people left and right.
Well, maybe, but I don't think people would flood to other places. I think a lot of it is we're being so oppressed by our governments that we want to try to get somewhere where we can breathe. You know what I mean? And so, yes, the United States government is awful, but at the same time, it's not as bad as some, right? And we do have freedoms that other countries do not have. So I think that's a big part of why people want to migrate, because they're in such a shit show of what's going on, right? They're it's like the foot is on their neck.
Mm. Well, but that's the problem that we talked about too earlier, is that they migrate from these places, right, that have some form of democracy, and then they come to places that don't, and they vote the same shit in. They just left, and they're still buying the lie that this socialism, this communism can work on a large scale, and then they just impose it on the place that they come. So that's what's hard about this. Another like hybrid thing, like you want to think, yeah, that's not the government's job to keep people out, but at the same time, with the system we have, if we don't do that, then we're going to have people flooding in that will be voting for the same shit that they just left. And that's what, I mean, they do it even in our country, with it being different states or whatever. They will leave places like New York and California because they're so taxed to death, and they're so restrictive about what they can do, and then they move to somewhere like Texas, and then they start voting the same way that they did in California. Then it just slowly starts creeping in there.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't understand how you're that stupid, because that's what it is. It's stupidity.
Absolutely.
You're not evaluating it. You're just feeling. You're feeling, oh crap, it's sucked up there, but I'm such an idiot. I'm going to move here and not even evaluate why it's sucked up there.
Yeah, and just turn this place into shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And I mean, there's stuff down in the southern states that suck too on the other end of it.
No, there isn't.
But
well, that's the thing, is left and right do the same exact thing. I feel like not maybe the same exact thing in leaving states and whatnot, but they keep voting in this same shit and living in their squalor and bitching about life and blaming it on the damn Democrats, and it's just like no one is helping you. Neither side is helping you. How do you not see that?
They're not only not helping you, they're most
Parasites.
Definitely hurting you. Like they're
without you, they don't exist.
Yeah.
They are sucking your lifeblood.
Yep.
Your money, your time, your resources, your family. They take it all.
Yep.
Did you see the speech that the guy from the CDC gave from the White House about the coronavirus?
No.
It was on the other night, and I was just in the kitchen, and it was on. I wasn't paying attention, and he said something about a list of things they needed from Congress, and he's like, number 1, we need to expand our surveillance network. Number 2, we need more support for local and federal government.
Those are your first two things we need to stop with the coronavirus.
I lost my mind. Yeah. Like, really, guys?
Of course. Convenient how this disease, dude. I'm not gonna get this right, but Zero Hedge was this news outlet that I followed. Have you guys ever heard of that? I follow them on Twitter. They were like a libertarian-ish, like economic news, basically. And I didn't read this like firsthand, but I saw people talking about it on Twitter that Twitter banned them because they started running a story that the coronavirus was manufactured in China in a lab, and here's the guy that did it. And then I guess they were saying that they doxed him or whatever, and they banned him. But, like, it's funny they banned him over that, right? Like, I could see that being the case. It's not even. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
So
yeah.
I heard from someone, but that they were doing research in Canada, and some of the Chinese scientists that were doing research there actually stole this virus, took it back over, developed it more, and then they released it.
Isn't it crazy? There are people in labs just fucking with these viruses.
Yeah.
Like,
why?
yeah.
What's the point?
I
I'm
guess
sure
they're
there
doing
are
it to
figure out
like
vaccines or cures
things,
for other things or whatever. You know what I mean? And that makes sense. But at the same
It's
time, man,
biochemical warfare.
it's crazy.
And I don't even know, like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem. Do you guys not, like, doesn't it seem like there's always one of these? Like, there was swine flu, the bird flu, Ebola. Like,
I have not kept up with this because of that specific reason, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, who cares? In 10 years, they're going to have another one. You know what I mean? Or 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, people die of the flu
all the time.
way more than the
When this
coronavirus.
first came out, that's what I looked up. It's like, I can't remember. It's between like 60 and over 100,000 a year in the United States that die from the flu every year.
Yeah.
I
And
think
it's
that
older
might be a bit
people
much,
and
but
infants.
I haven't looked it up either.
Yeah,
but that seems like
I
a
might
lot.
be off, but
Yeah.
it was.
Because I think
It's
heart
not
disease
that much,
is at
but-
like the top, and I think it's around 100,000 a year.
Yeah, it's not that much, but it is like, it was more.
10 to 15,000 or something, maybe.
And I think, like,
Somebody look it
they're
up.
saying
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna look it up.
coronavirus now is like a couple, like a 1.5% higher death rate than the flu is. But, and I don't know this for sure, but Katie was telling me that it was like, there was a graphic showing the ages of the people that died of this, and like it was like all older people.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, sucks. Like, nobody's saying that's not serious.
Yeah,
but
that's
it's not
a
an
common
epidemic.
thing.
It's not the Black Plague.
Yeah, I read that in an article the other day that it's much more deadly for elderly people who have their immune system is already not working as well.
Somebody else was telling me today that until recently there was nobody under, like, the youngest person that had died of this in the world that they knew of was 49, and he had other significant health problems. You know.
I
Okay.
did see there
So
was something
the
about a
CDC
kid that either got it or died from it. That was like 6 or something.
Well, until
but-
recently, maybe that was
Okay.
like the
Yeah.
The CDC says that 18 to 46,000 flu deaths a year in the United States.
Yeah.
That's more than gun deaths.
And if you look up like if you look up like the coronavirus, I'm sure there's so much crap out there now because everybody's like, I don't know if this is really the reason why this is happening, but like the stock market has tanked the last week. I mean, worst week for the stock market since 2008, like the financial crisis or whatever. And it last week they wiped out all the gains for the last 3 years in the stock market. So as the stock market has been going up and up, and you've been hearing about record highs and all that stuff, all of it gone in the last week. And they're saying it's because of the coronavirus.
Why?
Like, because
How does
the
that make
stock
sense?
market's all fake anyway, man. It's all speculation. It doesn't have really anything to do with anything except for, what people have faith in. And the
Right.
stock, what I hear is stock, like, the market likes things, they don't like uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with this going on, I think it's probably it's a mixture of things. It's the Democratic, they don't know who the nominee is going to be.
Yeah.
They're probably scared. I mean, I don't think anybody.
My investments are still going up. I had to check it. I haven't checked it in forever.
What investments are those?
It's just like this. It's called Plug. Some weird, like, I don't know. They do some stuff with, like,
They make face masks.
yeah. It's going
Because I
through
hear
the
those
roof,
things are
baby.
going up.
No, some sort of technology for batteries or some crap. But
Yeah.
I've doubled my money on it.
Look at you.
Hey. I only put $20 in.
Have you guys been following like the Democratic nominee process thing?
Slightly. It's been a circus.
Yeah. Who do you
The
guys?
debates.
If you had to say, who do you think is going to be the Democratic nominee?
It's like weird because I was saying Bloomberg for a while, and I still think that's a good chance because of the aggressive ad campaign that he has.
I mean, he's buying it. Fuck.
after the debates, it was like my mind was kind of like, oh wow, he just got completely destroyed. And there's been a couple things that have come out, and they brought that up in the debates, but way more people are seeing his ads he's running than tune in to the Democratic debates.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if that's really going to affect him negatively. Bernie seems like he is the most likely to win, but I always just, because of what happened in 2016, I feel like they're not going to let it happen. Something's going to go funky, something's going to go awry. But it's between them two, I think. I don't think anyone else has a chance.
I'm trying to look up this thing because I've looked up a lot about this, trying to figure it out because a friend of mine thinks it's going to be Bernie. And I was kind of the same way. I was like, nah, they're not going to let him, they're not going to let him have it. Do you guys understand, or have any idea how the Democratic nomination process works?
Not at all.
Do you... this thing isn't letting me search it right now. But anyway, I think I can remember most of it. But so last time, do you remember how they? I mean, one of you just said how they stole it from Bernie last time. Do you know how they did that?
Honestly, no.
Yeah. So why everybody was so pissed is the Republican primary thing works much different than the Democrat primary thing. So the Democrats have, and the Republicans may have a few of these too, I don't know, but it's so much heavier in the Democrat thing. So the Democrats have superdelegates. So the way the primary works, just in general, is every state has their primary. The parties in that state run it, and every state has so many delegates. I think it's based on population.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that kind of like the Electoral College, but for the
the
not, smaller scale?
Yes, it has nothing to do with anything governmental.
Yeah,
it's only the parties running it.
Okay.
So the parties are just completely separate from the government. They can nominate whoever they want. This is just how they do it. So they go and they have these primaries, right? And in the Republican primary, as I understand it, they're going to, you go vote, and then depending on the state and how it's set up, some states their delegates are split. Some states, if you win it, you get the whole thing, and I think there's a threshold for you have to get at least this much of the vote to get all of them. And then whoever has the most delegates, then all the delegates go to the convention at the end of it, and they have to vote for who their state told them to vote for, which is fine because you sign up to be a delegate. If in the last one, if Trump wins it, all of his delegates go up there. So obviously they're going to vote for Trump, and they're obligated to, right? Mm. Democrats, they have those too, but then they also, last cycle, they had super delegates, which were just appointed by the leaders of the party. So the people and those were such a huge percentage of it. So Bernie,
they're super. I mean,
yes, yeah, and they can vote for whoever they want to, but they're obviously going to vote for
but do they represent people in states, or no? That's what you're saying.
No,
they don't. They're just picked by the party.
Yes, by the party. So they don't have any. Then they can vote for whoever they want to, and so they're selected. And so that's why Clinton won, because if you had just let that play out and you just had the whole Democrat Party vote, Bernie may have won it last time, and that's why everybody's so pissed. They stole it from him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the numbers, but I remember a lot of people claiming that he did win it.
Yeah,
but they
had the
super delegates.
That's exactly what
I just didn't remember all of
kinds of shady shit. But anyway, that was the biggest thing, right? So this year, because everybody was so mad, they're like, listen, first time around, no super delegates. So what they're doing is you have to get 1,911 delegates or something, somewhere in that area to win. So they're doing all these states and they're going by it, and but if somebody doesn't get a certain percentage of the delegates, I think you have to have over 50%, then it goes to what's called a brokered convention. At a brokered convention, then not only do all the superdelegates come back, so then the superdelegates get to vote when it's a brokered convention, but then if you were pledged to somebody, so the first time around, if you were pledged to, let's say, let's say Biden won. He just won South Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he had 53 delegates or whatever got pledged to him. Well, as long as someone gets 51% of the delegates, those 53 people still have to vote for Biden. But then if no one gets that 50% mark, then those 53 at a brokered convention get to vote for whoever they want to.
So the regular delegates and the super delegates now get to just choose whoever they
whatever.
Not what the people
so
have asked to do.
Yeah, so the reason why I don't think it's going to be Bernie is because A, the field is so crowded. And not only is it crowded, but they're getting different ones. Like Bernie won whatever the first one was, Iowa or whatever. That Buttigieg or whatever, he won like New Hampshire and got more delegates there, even though I think it was split, because you have, if one person doesn't get at least a certain percent, then it splits or whatever. Then I think Bernie won the next one, but Biden just won South Carolina, and then like Super Tuesday is Tuesday, and that's when like 15 of the 50 states vote, plus Democrats that are mailing in their votes that may not be in the country right now. So. And they call them Democrats abroad. So I guess that's what that means. It could mean like Guam and Puerto Rico and those kind of things. But anyway, like, so that's all happening. But I was looking today at the different polls and stuff, and they're like, oh, yeah, Bernie's going to win these couple. Biden's going to win these couple. They said Klobuchar is going to win one.
So nobody's going to get 50%.
Warren, well, I don't think there's any way.
There's too many people.
And then it's going to go brokered. And I get to a degree what the logic is, because then you're like, okay, so maybe somebody drops out, then what are their delegates going to do? They got to vote for somebody. And my whole thing is like, I think Bernie could win, but I think there are more Democrats that don't like Bernie than there are Democrats that do. So like, if they get to this broker convention and oh, by the way, at the broker convention, it doesn't have to be anybody that's running. So they could literally put Oprah up if they wanted to. And then those delegates can vote for whoever they want. Then you got the super delegates. That's why people are like, if you go to Vegas, you can still bet on Michelle Obama running, even though she's not in there, because she could technically get it that way. So I don't know. I just don't think.
I always knew your vote didn't count, but on
on that
DNC, it really doesn't.
No. Yeah. So like, I don't see how it's not going to be brokered with all these people in it. Nobody seems to be dropping out. I don't know.
That's crazy. That is insane. I mean, regardless, it's all bullshit, but man, you'd think that people would see that and get irritated and be like, this is completely rigged. Because it's not about who we voted for. It's about...
But what they did last time is they're like, it's completely rigged. We got to get Bernie in this year. This election.
Yeah.
Like,
yep. Nobody changes anything.
No, because I think he's more to the left. Like, he does want more government control, but he also wants stuff that they don't want, like no wars and that stuff. So I don't think.
But does he? Or does he just say that to get the vote of the young kids?
Oh, yeah.
Like so many have done.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I don't know. But I just don't see how it could be him. Don't get me wrong. Like, if it's him debating Trump, I'm going to be there with the popcorn, man.
Yeah.
Like, that would be as entertaining as anything.
Yeah, it's going to be like the best stand-up special of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, just the Democratic debates have been hilarious. Like, I just watched all the highlights, and it's so funny.
Well, have you seen any of the stuff that makes Biden look like he's freaking just, like, got dementia or something?
I mean, I think he does.
Well, there was one it was so funny. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about it. I don't remember exactly how it went, but there was so many. Biden hadn't spoke in, like, 3 minutes or something, and then he goes, "Let me finish."
Fox News played like a compilation of his like blunders, and one of the things he said that made me laugh so much is he goes, "Poor kids have just as much opportunity to make something of themselves as white kids." And it was like, wow.
Whoa there, buddy.
Yeah.
is horrible, sir.
Listen, Joe Rogan was making fun of him in a podcast. This was a different thing. This was not the first thing, I don't think, that I was talking about. But this one was like, he was giving some speech at a podium. He said he told like a 9-minute story about when he was a lifeguard. And he was like, I kicked some guy out of the pool. He said this was the whole gist of the story, was like, I kicked somebody out of the pool. And then they said they were going to go get a knife and fight me in the parking lot. So I took the chain off my bike and wrapped it around my fist. And I told him, I'm sorry for what's about to happen to you, but I'm not sorry for kicking you out of the pool. It was like an 8-minute story or 9-minute story from the podium
Some
of him
random
just ranting about
bullshit.
He's strange. Like, did you see him like bite his wife's finger after giving a speech?
Yeah.
Like, she kind of points near him,
Yeah.
and he just turns and can't help himself and just nibbles on her finger. And it's like, what are you doing?
Dude, what are you...
Like, hey, at least it was your wife this time,
Yeah, you weren't
and not some
smelling
small
some
child.
little kid.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure what he whispers to her is, I hope to see you at my house later. And the family is all smiley but looks weird, and then he says more loudly at the end, hope to see you soon. And she's like, looks extremely uncomfortable. And it's like, why is she coming to your house later, Joe Biden? What are you talking about?
Creep.
Like,
Man.
old creepy Uncle Joe.
It's all so fucked.
Like, I don't understand how that guy smells so many people. Like, how do you, like, and it's always like, you're taking a picture or a video, the whole country's looking at you, and you can't help but just, yeah. Like, I don't.
Because he knows no one cares.
When is the last time
all three of us watched One Tree Hill, right?
Yep.
Do you guys remember
Dog ate that heart? Yeah.
Well, this I think was before that.
Okay.
Dog
Do you remember
Dan's heart.
when Peyton has a stalker? It's Peyton, right, that has the stalker?
I'm pretty sure,
it
but
is,
it's been so long. Yeah, it has to be.
There's a point where he's playing off like he's her long lost brother.
Yeah.
And they hug, and he like hugs her and then just sniffs her hair from behind, and she has no clue. And I remember it being one of the creepiest things I'd ever seen. And I was like, you can't just sniff someone's hair like
smell
that.
people, man.
Like, yeah. Don't do unless somebody says, "Hey, does this perfume smell good?" and they're like wafting it at you.
Yeah.
Don't just be sniffing people's hair,
especially without their knowledge.
Like, what is a more intimate relationship than a person and their spouse? And like, even with your spouse, if I just go up behind her and I'm like that's just weird.
No, like I know I've done that to my wife, and it creeps her out.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm doing it because I know it's gonna creep her out. So she'll be like, "Stop that!"
Listen, we should all do that this week. Just see what the response is. Just right.
Yeah.
It's definitely a creepy move. It's never the go-to move.
No, it's
Try something
used.
different.
It's used in so many like film and shows by creeps.
Yeah,
like that's like a signature creep move of like hugging someone and sniffing their hair.
I just got some breaking news.
Oh yeah,
the Pete Buttigieg just dropped out. Yep, to try and screw Bernie. Trying to give it to Biden. I heard it like they were saying, like, because Biden won South Carolina or whatever, I think they think he's the strongest candidate. But like they were big people in the party saying everybody needs to drop out besides Joe and Bernie to try and get, which I could be wrong, but I think I remember that narrative last time around with Hillary. It was like everybody needs to drop out so we can beat Bernie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I just don't see how Joe is their guy.
I don't either. Like,
I mean, I guess maybe he's the easiest person to manipulate because he's out of his mind. Like,
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to tell your old grandpa who's losing his mind what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all game, man. They know exactly what they're doing.
Did you hear Joe talk? You probably didn't because you weren't listening to this podcast, I'm sure. But Joe's like, I'm convinced Pete's not gay. He's like, this is the first gay beard. Like, he was like, this guy. He's like, every time they kiss, it's just like, I don't want to be doing this kind of thing.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Pete Buttigieg.
The gay.
He's gay. And
Okay.
he's running for
I don't know
president.
anything about that guy.
Listen, I kind of wanted him to be the nominee because I knew, Trump with his nicknames. I was like, he is going to be, like, it's going to be like me watching these debates going, he's going to make fun of him for being gay. I know he's going to do it. Like, the obvious nickname is Gay Pete. Like, that would be what he would say. But, yeah. But anyway, he's the mayor of, like, South Bend, Indiana or something like that.
Yeah.
He was some kind of mayor. And he was gay and married a dude.
Yep. Good for him.
Yeah. But
He's no
dropped
longer
out.
in the race.
nope.
I really think that this whole Democratic circus is their plan to reelect Trump.
Exactly.
I do not think that the Democrats want Trump out of office.
Of course they don't. They let him get there in the first place. They had Bernie and Hillary should have won. Both of them should have beat Trump.
Like, it just, I don't know. I don't know. Seems obvious to me, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the Democrats as much as the people running everything.
Well,
Like,
no. Yeah, I don't mean like,
The party
yeah,
itself, but
yeah, like
the ruling class want Trump there, and they're going to keep him there.
Like, I think Nancy Pelosi wants Trump to stay the president.
Yeah,
I
they
really
play
do.
games, bro. It's
I think that the leaders up there are,
a big giant play.
yeah.
It's theatrics. It's just why I don't know who the Budapest guy is, because I can't fucking sit there and listen to this shit. I just can't. It's stupid. It's all dumb. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's entertaining to me though. Still,
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Even though I don't believe in the institution of government, it's just fun to follow.
Well, dude, that was... it was Crowder I was listening to. He was playing these things because he's like... I started watching it because it was him and Gavin McInnes, and they were talking about how... they were like, I'm sure Trump's going to win, like 100%, because of the way it is. And he was like, what they don't realize about Trump is, like, everything you've been hearing about Trump lately is that it's all filtered through, like, news outlets,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't remember how, like, not necessarily good as in morally good or even really a skilled debater, but how well he played during the debates and the whole, like, when he actually
knows how to work
there.
a crowd.
Yeah, and they were like, did you watch the thing they were talking about too? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so like his whole point was that, like, he played 2 clips, and the first clip, it was like Bernie said something, and I don't remember what he said, but the crowd started booing during the Democrat debate. Oh, he said something about, like, even though Cuba had a lot of human rights violations, they still had great education, or whatever, and everyone was like, boo, boo, and he was like, really, you boo that, really, and, like, which is kind of dumb. Like, Bernie, like, it's a whole thing. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they had fine education. They were still killing people, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
And
that was insane that he said that.
well, it's because he's actually a communist. He's not a Democratic socialist. I didn't realize this. He went on his honeymoon to the USSR. Like, the man is a communist.
Yeah.
But, like, anyway, like, so there was that. And then he was like, then they played a clip of Trump when, like, he said something in, like, the Republican debates. And then they started booing him, and he goes, you know why they're booing? He was like, because everybody in this crowd is bought and paid for by Jeb Bush. And they booed louder, and he was like, really? He goes, they are. He goes, we tried to get tickets, couldn't get them. He was like, because it went to the guy. And he was like, and so, like, he just talked through it, and that's the point Crowder was making. He was like, Trump knew that the crowd he was talking to was not in that building, right?
Yeah.
He was talking to the country.
Yeah.
Whereas freaking Bernie is so upset because someone's booing him and it's not matching with his polls or whatever, that he's like floored, that he's like, it doesn't matter who gets it. He's like, Bernie probably has the best chance of standing up to him, but, like, none of these guys are going to be able to stand up to him in a debate or be able to actually compete here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna win
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it definitely seems.
Which,
like
I mean, you know,
I'd rather-
under the circumstances, that's what I'd rather have than anyone on the left. But
Yeah, I agree.
we're still slaves, though.
Trump 2020, baby.
Trump.
Trump.
That was my best. That was the favorite thing I had about the first election was the spontaneous Trump chants.
Yeah.
Like,
they just would happen anywhere at any time.
yeah.
Like,
And me and a friend of mine talked about that all the time. We were like, we just want to go to public places and start going, Trump, Trump, Trump. And just have people.
It's like in certain places, it's like playing the penis game, where like, you know, somebody's about to get real mad at you for the louder you get.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But like you go in the right crowd, you're just gonna, it's gonna be Trump, Trump,
Yeah.
Trump, and spontaneous
That's right.
applause.
you
Everybody
could get 100,000 people yelling
Yeah.
at the right place.
start throwing in a USA.
Listen, it would be real funny to do that in really, really like conservative Southern churches. Like just in the middle of his sermon, like when he says something that's not even really political, but could be like something, just go Trump, Trump, Trump. I bet you could get them riled up.
Yeah, dude. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would be. We should go do that and record it. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We don't even know how to put video to this podcast. How are we going to hide cameras somewhere and record that? Take it back. We're not doing that.
Yep.
It's a good idea, though. It'd be
Try
funny.
hard enough.
It might also be illegal
What, to video?
to secretly videotape people on private property.
Nah. They let us in.
I don't think that's how that works.
I don't know. Project Veritas does it all the time.
Yeah, but they get sued a lot too, don't they? And
I think it all depends on what state you're in, because I know some states you can record as long as, but it's like a one-party consent and then two-party consent.
They're a lot of times in those cases they're at parties or at a bar, which is like a public place.
Is
a
it
church
not a public place?
I don't think so.
Why is that different than a bar?
I don't know. It seems different because you drink at a bar and you praise the Lord at church. Those are the main differences. No, I mean I don't know. It just seems, I don't know.
Listen,
It seems like the laws would protect the church
I've
over
only
the bar.
had like just a little bit of this.
Yeah.
But I haven't drank in a while.
You feeling it?
Yeah, like I'm just ready to
Dude.
talk.
Yeah.
But like,
I'll be back then. I'll go make another drink and try to get on your level.
all right.
Y'all roll.
Caleb, do you watch documentaries?
Yes and no. It just depends. I mean, I like documentaries.
I've been watching this documentary about the McDonald's game the Monopoly game at McDonald's.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. Like, do you know that thing was rigged the whole time?
I mean, I never knew that, but like,
Well, McDonald's
Makes
didn't
sense.
either.
like, was it like a partnership with Monopoly?
No, like I'm sorry, rigged may not be. It was scammed the entire time.
Okay.
Like, it's a really interesting documentary, but like the way it worked is there was instant winner game pieces, but then also like if you pulled like everyone had Boardwalk, but you had to, or I'm sorry, everyone had Park Place. You had to pull Boardwalk to have the $1 million or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they would give away multiple $1 million prizes, other cash prizes, 50,000,
Yeah.
100,000 cars, all this crap. And the guy that was head of the security for the marketing firm that did all this was like stealing all the big game pieces, taking them, because McDonald's didn't track any of the shit. So they had no idea where anything was going, and he knew that. So he would just take all the big game pieces because they were just supposed to be randomly put out.
Yeah.
And you think about all the McDonald's, and then they wouldn't just put them on that stuff. They would be in magazines to give free pieces and all that stuff. So he'd take them, and he was hooked up with the Italian mob. Yeah. And the two guys, like the Italian mob in New York and him, they would distribute these things, and so like the guy that stole them would charge like $50,000 for $1 million game piece, So they would pay him, and the guy from the Italian mob would then distribute them, and then he would be like, hey, I'll give you this game piece, you go cash it in, because it can't all look like it's coming from the same family or the same dude, and then you pay me half of what they give you. So, like, it was just completely a joke.
Just going to the mob.
And, dude, listen, you have no idea how much I ate McDonald's trying to get that freaking game piece. Like, everybody. It was the best thing ever. You're like, where are we going to go eat? Well, McDonald's. Like, but
and hell, they made so much money off of that. Like, you know, it was such a great marketing plan for McDonald's.
Yeah. But the thing that made me think of that, oh, yeah, they said in this documentary, like, they're during the Monopoly game, their sales revenue went up 60%. That's crazy for something that size. But the thing that made me think about that is the guy that was hooked up with the Italian mob. It wasn't the main guy, but the guy below him. Like, he was trying to get out of doing illegal stuff, so he wanted to open up like a club that was like a strip club but classier.
Yeah.
So he was like, it was just kind of going to be a gentleman's club, like they were just going to be in bikinis, but then there were also going to be all kinds of stuff for guys to just do and hang out or whatever. Well, it was in like one of the Carolinas, and they were real strict, and they kept like shutting him down or whatever. So it was called the Fluffy Bunny. And like he kept trying to make it work, and they would never do it. So then he changed the name from the Fluffy Bunny, like Gentleman's Club or whatever, to the Church of the Fluffy Bunny, and they couldn't stop him because all the. So it was the exact same thing. He just called it the Church of the Fluffy Bunny and acted like it was a church, and it was fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so he got like all the church like stuff and like was registered as a church. I don't know if you have to do that, but
yeah,
like,
maybe
he was recognized as a church by the state.
I guess so. Yeah, like, but it was before that he couldn't operate because he didn't have all the licenses, and then it was like it's fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of churches that get to do all kinds of drugs under the guise of we're a church, and it's allowed under our religion, and so it's not against the law.
Yeah.
Which is a great loophole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the documentaries that I watch are about serial killers. Those are the most interesting ones to me.
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, there are so many. Like, documentaries are great.
Yeah.
They're better than...
They're great, but they also...
So many fucking bad ones.
It's like a great way to spread misinformation.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Because after you get through watching a documentary, you feel like the smartest person in the world.
Yeah, you're like, this.
I got to tell somebody everything I just learned because I just learned the damn truth. And it's like, there's a lot of great documentaries out there, but I've seen some and
like
felt like my mind was blown and I got all this new information and then realized it was all horse shit.
Yeah.
Like that food one that came out on Netflix, like maybe...
What the health?
Yeah, dude. And they're talking about how eggs are like smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I never
Eat an egg,
that.
it's like smoking a cigarette. You're like,
I never watched
well,
that
fuck,
crap.
if that's the case. And then like, you're like,
Yeah.
wait a second. Why did I buy that for 10 seconds? Like, that's bullshit.
But yeah, documentaries are awesome.
There's a new Super Size Me. Super Size Me 2. With Morgan Spurlock or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to watch it. It was on YouTube. And it got to the first commercial break, right? And it played its ad, and then it never would load the damn thing again. And I mean, I tried over and over. I tried like exiting out, completely clearing the apps on my phone, going back. It would play that ad and then just sit there and load forever. Like
That's weird.
Maybe I just had bad.
That's really good news for Doug Benson, though. He'll be able to be relevant again when he does Super High Me Too.
Right.
God,
I don't like
sucks.
that dude.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
That was funny. Like, I didn't know you were about to say that either.
I used to, and I think he's a good comic. He's funny, but I think he's a shitty person. Just a dickhead.
Why?
He did a web show called Getting Doug with High.
Uh-huh.
And I used to watch it every day. It was really funny because he had a lot of interesting guests come on, and they would sit there and smoke weed and have conversations.
Yeah.
He had like this idea of how he wanted every episode to go, where he would have segments of like, we're going to do weed facts, and we're going to talk about this weed thing, and we're going to talk about some news across the world about weed. And he would have comedians come on and get high, and they're comedians. They're joking. He'd
They're
have Joey
riffing.
Diaz on there all the
Yeah.
time, and he's talking and doing his thing, and he's going about it. And Doug would always just be like, "But hold up, let me get to the cars." And he would always, and it's like, I get it's your show, but change the model of your show when it's clearly working better when you just have these guys having normal conversations.
You got somebody interesting on there, you let them go.
Yes, and he would cut people off and shut conversations down and always try to pull it back to his dumb little cards he wanted to read. And it's like, dude, you had such a great thing here, and your whole personality just killed it. Like,
listen, I hated him on Trailer Park Boys.
oh, he was horrible.
Like, I loved that season that he was in with Snoop Dogg and Tom Arnold. Like,
they both
was
did great. Yeah, but
Yeah.
he was awkward and
Yeah.
horrible. He's not an actor. Like, you cannot act. Dude.
No.
And it's like, even though you're playing yourself, you still have to act. Like, this isn't like Tom Arnold and Snoop Dogg were acting like Tom Arnold and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
They weren't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Snoop Dogg's just incredible at being himself, and it flows on camera perfectly. Like, I heard him talking about, he was talking, it was like on a talk show with some other actors who were like big time actors, and they were talking about auditions and things like that, and they were like, have you ever had to audition for a role? And he's like, are you kidding me? He goes, they call me and go, Snoop, we got a role for you. And I'm like, all right. Like, he was just like, I don't audition for nothing. But it's like, that's fair. Like, you don't want Snoop Dogg in your movie unless you're wanting that character.
Literally made a part
the character for him.
Yeah.
Like, and he's incredible in every movie he's in like that.
Yeah.
Did y'all ever see Starsky and Hutch?
Are you talking about
which one?
The
original
new one? Like the new movie, it had like Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller.
Yeah, I think I saw
it a
bits
long
and
time
pieces,
ago.
But I used to watch the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got
I'm a
you.
hipster.
Well, he played he played Huggy Bear or whatever in that, and like I never watched the show, but I was like, this dude, that's his role right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great. Like in is it How High? Is that the Dave Chappelle one?
I don't know.
There's two movies. There's one with Method Man.
No.
Is that How High?
Yeah. What's the other one? That's the one with Dave Chappelle.
Well, the one with Dave Chappelle, Snoop Dogg is in it.
Well, How High is not the Dave Chappelle one. I don't.
Yeah,
think.
I don't.
What's
think it
the
is
other
either.
one you're thinking of?
The one with Method Man in it.
You said How High.
Yes.
Okay, what's the name of the other one? You said
that's what I can't think of.
Okay.
That's why the one with Dave Chappelle I can't think of the name of.
Okay, I got you.
But when he's going through the different types of weed smokers, the vulture is what he calls it, is the character Snoop Dogg plays, and like he's like sitting on the porch and he like
half baked.
Yeah.
That's
like Dave Chappelle like sparks up a joint, and then Snoop just like pops up and he's like, "Hey, you got a blunt? You trying to smoke?" Like, and he like sits down and hits it, and then he's like, "All right, man, I gotta go," and he leaves, and he's just like, "What the hell, man?" And he's like, "There's always that guy that is there when you got weed, but I ain't never got none."
Yeah.
Used to be me.
Mm-hmm. Vulturing bad, son.
Do what you gotta
Listen,
do.
when I was in high school, I don't know, one of those movies, they're always smoking and there's a guy on the couch that
That's
will like
Half Baked.
Okay. That movie. I'd never seen that movie. And that movie in high school pissed me off more than any other movie because I was like, I would always hang out. Most of my friends smoked or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to, like, towards the end of it, I didn't in like the first parts of high school or whatever. But like I was also the only one probably with a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like, but I'd still hang out with people. And there was one day, like I would work full-time, but I'd also sometimes like the job that I'd work, it was like banquet setup, and some of these banquets would last like crazy into the night, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one night I'd worked on one of these things that lasted till 2 or 3 in the morning. Got up the next morning, went to school, it was like Friday, and then we all got together at these people's house, and it was like 10 or 11 at night, and I was just out. Like, I was on this guy's futon, and they were all smoking. And, like, every time they'd come around, they'd wake me up, like, referencing this movie. And I was like, if you don't get that thing the fuck away from me right now. Like, I'm trying to sleep over here. I thought it was cool. And now I'm sleeping.
That would be, like, funny as hell, though, if I was at a party. Because I
everybody
would
else
immediately,
was dying,
like,
and I
recognize the
was
reference.
just throwing stuff.
The white guy in that movie is one of Dave Chappelle's friends. He's a comedian.
Yeah. What's his name?
I can't remember. I can never remember
He's
his
hilarious.
name. He's
Jim Norton? Is that it?
Maybe. I don't remember.
Jim Norton is
Look
the
it up,
guy
nerd.
from like the Andy and Opie show or whatever.
Yeah. That's not him.
That's not him.
No, that's not him.
You're talking about the guy that did that one stand-up special called Three Mics or whatever?
I don't know that. I just know that he's in Half Baked.
Okay.
But I've seen some of his stand-up. But in that movie, like, he looks like he was just completely baked out of his mind the whole movie.
Is it not? Jim Breuer.
Jim Breuer.
I don't have any idea who Jim Norton is. Jim Brewer's the guy I was thinking of.
I think you do know who
You do
Jim
know
Norton
Jim
is,
Norton.
though. He's another comedian. He's actually really funny as well. But
He's
every
alright.
time I looked at that guy in the movie or doing stand-up or anything, I was always like, this guy is constantly stoned.
But
He's never smoked weed. Like, I think maybe he did once, but he doesn't do drugs at all.
Have
That's
you
wild.
heard his story about when he smoked weed?
I think
It
I
was
have, but
on that set.
it's been
Like,
a long
he was
time.
telling him, I heard him talking about it or whatever. He was like, I hadn't smoked. Like, everybody around me was smoking. He was like, it was just everywhere. And he was like, I was completely done. He was like, I verified that I was done for the day or whatever. And he's like, there's one scene in that movie where he's high because he was like, I was in my trailer. He's like, I was done. I was like, you know what? I'm going to smoke. Nobody's around.
Yeah.
He said, I smoked this thing. He was like, I started feeling like, whoa, I'm high. He goes, all of a sudden, knock on the door. And he's like, there's the director standing there going, listen, man, I know you're done for the day, but this other guy that was in the movie is about to quit. He's sick of it, and he's only got one scene too, and you're in it. And like he's threatening to walk out, but he says he'll do this last scene if you'll do it right now. And he's like I can't handle it because I'm high. Like
That's a nightmare.
That's got to be the worst. Like,
Yeah.
I just imagine the first time I got high, like,
Yeah.
if
Oh, man.
somebody said, even if I was an actor, like, hey,
Dude.
now go act.
having to do anything.
Yeah.
Listen, what man? Yeah, one of the, it was not one of the first times I got high, but I hadn't been smoking that long. I remember doing it at the beach, and I had smoked, and it had been a little bit, and then I was gonna make 2 frozen pizzas,
Yeah.
and dude, the task of making 2 frozen pizzas, I was like, oh my god. This is this is what people must feel like when they're running an ultra marathon. Getting this done right now.
You just hit that wall.
Yeah, you're
It's
like, man, I can't. I gotta get it out. I gotta cut it. Is it done?
One time, me and Austin had a problem with pizza, but it was different. We got super baked. He cooked a pizza in the oven. It was done. We're so ready. He pulls it out, puts it on the pan, puts it on the top of the stove, gets the pizza cutter, runs that thing across, but it wasn't quite on the stove. So when he pushed, it just flipped down, and the whole pizza just hit the oven door and then slid all onto the ground, all pizza side down.
Yeah.
Just ruined it. And we were just like, really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What'd you guys eat?
I don't know, man. Whatever else was in the pantry.
Shit we didn't want.
Yeah, not that pizza.
I remember one time, when I was in school, it was probably when I was in 7th grade, one of the first times I spent the night at somebody's house. I was at this dude's house, and we had stayed up most of the night, and we were hungry. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, let's go cook a pizza.
Yeah.
And it was one of those Totino's pizzas or whatever. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. We got to be quiet, though. My parents are sleeping or whatever. And it was a small house, so we go in there, we cook this thing, and we're all trying to be quiet. We start talking he's cut the pizza, and those Totino's pizzas, they stick to the bottom of the pan.
Yeah.
So he's there and he's trying to it's sticking, so he's taking the pizza cutter. He's like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And we're just kind of sitting there just whisper talking or whatever, but not recognizing that he's whoosh, whoosh, and.
I know the exact sound because I've done that so many times with those
And
pizzas.
his dad from the back room goes, Josh! He's like, sorry.
It's so funny, man. Dude, yeah. Those are great times, though, man. spending the night at your friend's house or whatever, and then just like, we have to be quiet. Because everybody gets up in the middle of the night to go get food.
Yeah.
And then it's like, the microwave's running, but you're standing there
Yeah,
waiting
you
for
can't
one.
beep.
You can't let it beep. You know what I mean? You can't put any ice in your drinks.
This Austin used to make me do this
because that's way too loud.
Yeah. We would sneak outside of his dad's house and go smoke, right? And we'd have to wait till late where we knew he was deep asleep.
Yeah.
But they had an alarm set, so we had to disable the alarm before we could get out of the house. Well, the alarm keypad was right next to his dad's room, and he slept with the door open like a maniac. So we would have to turn the alarm, and it's beep, beep, beep. Every button is a loud beep, and then it's got that extra 2 or 3, when it's done.
Yeah.
And so Austin would go, all right, while I'm clicking them, you have to cough. And I was always like, isn't that just going to wake him up? Like, I don't know. It seems like the beeps would just be less noise, the better. Like,
right.
And he was trying to get me to cover up the sound of the beep, but
no.
you're just going to hear coughing and beeping.
You should have taken a thick towel and placed it over the speaker. Mm-hmm. Like, that's your best bet.
Listen, we were young kids trying to get high. We weren't thinking with our right mind.
Listen, that's why you should have grown up like me. We were too poor for ice makers. Like, trays don't make any sound, dog.
That's true.
And we didn't have no damn alarm. Like, the most me and a friend of mine ever did, we got he had like a 6-pack of beer because he was more of a man, and I had a 6-pack of wine coolers.
Nice.
And they taste better.
Yeah, and we were down in my basement, like where my room was, and like I was freaked out because my dad would have been pissed had he known. Ironically, he may be listening to this, but like we were we're gonna drink in my room. Like, we were the least rebellious kids. We were gonna drink down there and watch a movie,
right?
And then I was like, dude, what are we gonna do with these empties or whatever when we're
Yeah.
done? Because I'm not leaving them in here. And then him finding it before we wake up or something like that. And he was like, man, listen, it'll be fine. Like, we'll drink and then we'll get drunk. And then later there was a park behind our house. He was like, we'll just take him down there somewhere, and we'll walk down there, and your parents will be asleep. It'll be like an adventure. We just walked down there with all that stuff. And
I always hated when my friends said that. Like, hey, let's go walking around. It's going to be an adventure. Like, let's not. We're going to get into some trouble if we do that.
Yeah.
But we took some shrooms one time, and everybody's like, let's go walk down the street. And I said, no, I'm staying in the house.
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, well, there's a big gap between shrooms and I've had 4 wine coolers.
Sure.
Give me that walking around is fun though, man.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like late at night with a group of hooligans.
Yeah.
I
The only
had more
time,
sense to be like,
I remember
don't
one
wanna get into
time.
trouble.
Did you come with us when we went to Hedgepeth's house?
Yeah,
Collierville or whatever, and like we were walking around Collierville or wherever
because
the fuck we were.
me and Hedgepeth and Zach hung back because we didn't want to hang out with you losers, and we wanted to talk about doing drugs.
I mean, that's fine.
Because you guys would have snitched on us.
That's
so
fine.
we like made an excuse to like hang way back from you guys.
Just to talk about drugs because none of you had any.
We didn't have any. No. We just were talking about the times that we did do drugs.
It's ridiculous.
I think it's a Dave Chappelle skit where he talks about it's boring to smoke weed with white people or something because all they do is talk about other times they got high. And it was always so funny to me because when I first started smoking, every time me and Austin hung out, the only thing we talk about is, hey, remember when we got high the other day and this thing was real funny? Like, that was all we did was talk about the other times we got high.
Yeah, man.
Drugs are fun.
They can be.
Don't do them, kids.
You should do some.
Not kids.
Not as a child, but, as a teenager and a young adult.
I say, from a person who's done lots of drugs, you should not do drugs until you're at least 25 years old.
That's probably true, but
any kind of drug. Other than, like, yes.
Even caffeine?
Yes. No, I have no idea. I'm just fucking around. But, like, most drugs, like illicit drugs, should not be done either at all or until you're at least 25. Especially marijuana. I mean, that's proven that it can stunt your developmental growth.
Listen,
Your brain.
Marijuana's doing that. LSD and mushrooms have to be doing more, right?
I mean, I would think so, but who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I agree with you, right? But I think it's kind of like a rite of passage, too, to like smoke a little weed when you're growing up and shit.
Sure, but
Drink a beer or two.
I don't think there's anything wrong with not doing that. And then
No, there's nothing.
it later.
You're right about that.
I don't know.
You're
Doug
right about
Benson
that.
didn't smoke weed till he was like 28, and look how he turned out. So
Piece of shit.
yeah. Maybe you should smoke weed when you're a kid.
I mean, I don't mean like a child. I mean like,
18,
like
14?
16 or up.
I think I was like 14, maybe 15.
Yeah. I mean, that isn't a good idea, and you're going to get in trouble if you get caught, kids. But I'm just saying, like,
Don't do illegal
go make some
drugs.
memories.
We're not condoning any illegal behavior
Why is it illegal?
because the government says so, Daniel.
Yep,
We have to follow what they say.
that's right.
They're our masters.
Give them that.
And YouTube loves them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
We ended on that. Do drugs, kids, by me. You guys are going to end on that.
I didn't say that.
That's the moral of this podcast. Children need to be on drugs.
No, they don't. I didn't mean it like that.
What's so fucked up, this is a kind of a separate thing, is that the medical industry is drugging children left
Adderall's
and right.
fine. Those kids don't
Like,
smoke weed.
Yeah, a few years back, I don't remember what branch, but they made it legal to prescribe
Opiates.
Oxycontin to 7-year-olds. I think was the age.
That's insane. We knew someone at one point, and their child was prescribed Adderall, and they were like 4 or 5.
It's insane.
You know how? Because she would literally sell me some of her kid's script.
Man,
It's insane.
yeah, no, dude, they do that all the time.
Adderall is meth.
Yeah,
It's slightly different.
yeah.
Like I swear to God, I would rather a child do meth than Adderall.
Why?
Because Adderall makes you want to fucking kill yourself. Meth just makes you feel bad the next day physically. But to me, the drug is identical in the effect. Now,
Dude,
I'm sure Adderall is probably a bit cleaner because it's made in a lab. I don't know if
Yeah.
that has anything to do with it, but
No battery acid. That kind of
yeah.
thing.
But like, it's not like it's good for your body.
Yeah, man. Like, but I don't know, man. I've read things that talk about like the professional world and how if you're in a really competitive place, people that aren't doing Adderall, they're at a disadvantage
Oh, sure.
because most
it's
people
a
are.
stimulant. It's a performance enhancing drug.
Yeah.
And I mean, it can be a great tool, but it's like the possibility for abuse is way too high for it to really. People are always going to just end up abusing it.
Yeah.
Not always, but like.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Wow.
you use it fucking more than 3 times a week, you're already abusing it, in my opinion. Like,
I mean,
you're addicted. You
yeah.
need it to fucking function on a daily basis.
Well, being dependent on something isn't abusing it. Like, I mean, if you have a disease and you have to take a medication for it and you're dependent on that medication, doesn't mean you're abusing the
That's
medication.
to stay alive. This is different.
But there's, I mean, it's not. Like, there's a difference between abusing and being dependent on something.
Both bad things, though, right?
I went through a methadone clinic, and I was dependent on methadone. I never once abused it in the clinic because I was weaning off, and I quit doing heroin because of it.
Yeah, and you're also not
I was
doing
dependent.
methadone anymore
Yes, but I was dependent on it.
with an end goal.
Sure, but I'm saying there's a difference between
there-
dependence and abuse.
There is
You
a
can't
difference.
they're not one and the same.
But
is
if
my
your
point.
end goal is never to get off of it, and then the rest of my life I'm going to be dependent on this, then that is
If you're-
abusing
if
something
you're
so that you
ta-
can function on a daily basis.
if you're taking something that otherwise you wouldn't be able to function without, you're not abusing it, even if you become dependent on it.
I don't,
It's medicine.
it's medicine. No, you're using it for, and that's the thing though. Like, why are you dependent on it? That's the real underlying question, right? Is it because you have an actual medical condition, or is it because you want that edge, like he was talking about, because you have a high stress job?
Well, exactly, sure. But that's not. That's all I was trying to say is that dependence and abuse are not one and the same.
They can be.
Yes, but that's not how not how reality works. Just because they can be doesn't mean they always are.
I mean, I'm an advocate for anyone doing whatever drug they want to do and pay the consequences for your actions. That's it. That's what we're ending on.
Legalize all drugs.
Yes.
I stand behind
100%.
that. Mm-hmm.
Nobody should be able to tell you what you can put in your body.
They should be selling fentanyl in vending machines.
I don't think they would last long because the people would die and people would stop using it. Anyways, are we done?
Sure.
We appreciate you guys listening. Have a nice week. We'll see you next week.
Except for you, Austin.